In a narrow corridor, the smell of fishy blood rose up, and inside the chaotic scene, there was a whole fight and killing each other. That's how gangs in Korea at the end of the 20th century competed for position. In that bloody slashing scene, Chung Mo saw his important person. He didn't understand why that girl was here. The hot color in him rose up and went towards the milling knife in front of him, and then rushed to slash each of the exploding girls. Chung Mo's face, quickly covered in fresh blood, looked like a demon. No one would have expected that just a few months ago, Chung Mo was a simple and honest guy. He has a wife who is a beautiful policewoman with teeth. Their marriage would be beautiful if Chung Mo was not just an acquaintance policeman. While his wife's family has a high status in society, the erection itself also has a higher rank and status than him. Chung Mo is just a familiar cop in a remote countryside. Being criticized and despised for his social status made him think a lot. Seeing her husband like that, she comforted her with all her heart. Try to treat the words of your family members as if the wind is blowing through your ears. However, Chung Mo's appearance did not make him feel that way. Until one day, Chung Mo's seniors, Du-hein is a police officer from the anti-corruption team who came to look for him, give them an offer to join their special task force. This, for a familiar police officer in the countryside like you, is too big a responsibility. Chung Mo, of course, did not easily trade his safety for this. However, the amount of remuneration for this project is a number he has never reached in his life. Not only was there an impact from Du-hein, but the next day the chief prosecutor personally went to Chung Mo province. He knew that he was originally a bad student with outstanding fighting talents, but he was an honest and kind person. Apart from the general opening, no one will be able to take on the key responsibilities in this case. That night, Chung Mo had to bury his head in thought, looking at the photo of the couple taken together. To the military rank, he couldn't even break himself. So Chung Mo made a decision. The next morning, he was taken to a slum by Du-hein to present himself to the chief prosecutor. However, instead of the general ruffled prize money, another reward was promoted. He wants to be promoted in the industry. It is something that he has always wanted, to be worthy of his wife. The chief prosecutor agreed with him because indeed the task this time would post such a higher price. Because they will have to approach the Kijun. Ki-chun is the grandmaster who annexed the entire disco in the southern stretch area. His rapid rise to wealth was of course related to flour. One day, the girl played with medicine and made the decision to teach at the shop by herself. This made the police even more affirm that Ki-chun's gang was a national-level nest of apricots. But Ki-chun's gang is not simple. Who knows that Ki-jun is just a handsome guy with no name, until one day he was noticed by his boss. He called Ki-chun in and made a promise to let him be the master. What he needed was to increase the number of juniors for him. Soon, Ki-chun became the big singer of many juniors in the gangster night neighborhood. Then one day one of the shops managed by the Three Kitchen had a problem. When he came to check, he found that the customer was criticizing. That's why he even tortured the flight attendants. Ki-chun couldn't help but rush into the customer's name, but he suddenly found out that he was a giant. Those who have no money and no power like Ki-jun do not put it in their eyes. Ki-chun immediately went to his boss and asked him to fulfill his promise to let him be the master. He promised very well, but at this time it requires a development strategy. Then he let him be the master. Ki-chun said his direction. It is to turn the South Gang area into the center of the plum. Hearing this, the boss nodded, but immediately after that, he slapped Ki-jun in the face continuously. Sticking to something is sticky, but sticking to the flower is sticking to the endless death of this pig-brained guy anymore. Then he thought that Ki-chun was not qualified to lead. The promise before it is considered to be torn apart. He wouldn't have expected a rat to have an army. They can drain an entire grain storehouse. After counseling with his dear brethren, that night, Ki-chun quickly dealt with the boss junior. Get your hands on the preparations for the upcoming Boss Gang baseball batting event. He also went to find an effective assistant for himself. Must be a literal guillotine. And so the slasher surnamed SEO joined Ki-chun's group. The next day, Ki-chun's gang arrived at the place where the ball was held as planned. Although he was a little suspicious when he saw that this place was shining, but then he didn't bother to bother. He would not have expected what he would have to face when night fell. The clock struck 3 o'clock at night, and Ki-chun was ready for an important battle. He left hot goods in the room. Even if it is a betrayal, he must play beautifully, along with the support of the guy who slashed the surname CO outside. Immediately, Ki Shun's group armed with weapons entered each room, defeat each of the boss juniors. The hotel for a moment was a scene of chaos between two black and white groups. Finally, during the loophole, the Ki Chun group left a name. He pressed the fire alarm to alarm the boss. He walked out of the Palanquin Canal, not expecting the rat like Ki Chun to dare to rebel, but he didn't know that his juniors were too old and weak compared to the group of Kitchens. Ki Jun himself is also an expert boxer. One by one, the white-robed men were thrown downstairs and piled up on the spot. Plus the guy who slashed the surname SEO, the situation gradually leaned towards Ki Chun. Instead of being wrong, the boss immediately ran away. But then he was also stuck in the dining room, and he immediately surrendered. Ki Shun's closest junior was numb to the boss handcuffs. The expression of victory that day is to take away the opponent's watch. However, while taking the numbness, he didn't notice the name of the boss who was holding the scissors in his hand. With a blow of force, he stabbed the scissors directly into the heart of the rhinoceros. Fresh blood shot out like rain, making Ki Chun panic. Anyone can do it, but he killed his closest junior. Ki Chun, with the blood of hatred in his body, rushed straight to the boss name. With the knife of the SEO family, he stabbed his heart in the stomach many times. Finish him off in the surprise of the SEO cousin. He was already as brutal as looking at Ki Chun. Now he was even more terrifying than 100 times. Just like that, the boss empire collapsed completely. These gangs of thugs do not work alone. They are the hands and feet of the giants. The fact that the boss name had been killed was personally reported to the boss. Of course, he said that the boss had betrayed the boss, so he ran away. The boss clearly showed disdain and didn't trust Ki Chun at all. But somehow now the four sides surrounding him are all his juniors, ready to kill him at any time. The boss had to admit that Ki Jun would be the new owner of the southern cast iron area. In his new position, Ki Jun immediately realized his goal. He went to find Professor Jun, a woman with a special talent to make apricots. Therefore, the task of the middle MO is to become the hands and feet of the Ki Chun. Infiltrated the gang of men to investigate. From the moment he accepted to participate in this project, the male protagonist will no longer be a middle-aged man, but a prosperous man. T.S. cousin Koft, who was stabbed to death by the boss. T-Ho is the core brother of Ki Chun, so this status will help Zhongma in approaching. The project officially began in the identity of Sung Ho. Truck suddenly became a leader in the way of help. The cut layer went into the restaurant that Ki Chun managed. Lu stubbornly asked the staff to meet Ki Jun. If there is a bodyguard and chases them away, he directly handles both of them. This rant succeeded in reaching Ki Chun's ears. He did not hesitate to go to the restaurant to see the brave people in his area. Seeing Young Mo Ki Chun, who only thought he was a drunkard asking for money. But on Trung Mo's hand he wore the watch that T-Ho had stolen before he died. So the successful transplant attracted the attention of the kitchen. Trung Mo quickly seized the opportunity to introduce himself as his cousin. Come here to find the person who killed his mental cousin. With an extravagant look along with constantly being sick. Zhong Mo made a mark in Ki Chun's eyes, and the junior was an uneducated person. Although there are still many doubts, Ki Chun still brings his mid-career business card to find him in the office one day. So Zhongmo's mission has taken a step forward. But Ki Chun is not a fool. Immediately he went to T.S. father to ask about it. Dad coughed after his death and became a drunkard. Ki Chun is a sympathetic person, so he often comes to give him a deposit of money. But today the father returned all his money. Tell Ki Chun not to come to me anymore. The fact that he has a cousin is true. That cousin treats him like twins. So it's normal for that cousin to get mad. Hearing this, Ki Chun immediately erased the suspicion in the middle of the grave. Who knew that this matter had actually been arranged by the police in advance. The next morning, as if I had made an appointment, I went to the area to look for Ki Chun. In his careless overbearance, he was indeed like a bunch of guys who cut their faces and ate figs. So Ki Chun brought out a bag of money in front of Zhong Mo. Tell him to take the money and disappear from their sight. What I need is not money, but revenge. Saying that, Zhong Mo threw the money wrap in Ki Chun's face. This really provoked his juniors. Ki Jun still looked calm. Just one glance from him will make the junior know what to do. Only to see the disciples standing out. Send out the 3 fattest men to block the middle step. A mobile ring was opened. Trung Mo rushed into the Union 3 match, but he was not inferior. The only thing that is Onion 3 is that there are many loopholes. Not many of them were pushed to the ground and were beaten. It seemed that after receiving the blow, he would hug his pants and run away. But the heir is not a mediocre class. He stood up and like a bull rushed at the 3 disciples. Hitting the head and leg like that wanted to finish off all 3 of them. All office supplies were used as weapons. Originally, it was calculated for the name of the child to pass away, but the profession of Ki-chun Mo has stopped. After only 3 sentences, he hugged his bloody face and left. He said that he would find the killer of his cousin and take revenge. This is not a joke at all. The next night, when the junior was on patrol, he saw the middle of the farm handing out leaflets. It was a leaflet tracing the name of the boss that Ki-chun had killed since the Song dynasty. Diving to distribute leaflets all night is not in vain. While sitting in a daze, Zhong Mo received a call from Ki-chun. At the promise of going to an abandoned pub to meet the queen. Then Ki-chun invited him to come to invite the goat to open up to join his gang. It was okay to notice that he was punching. Moreover, they share the same enemy. While he was talking, a group of thugs from outside rushed in. Unexpectedly, one of the 2 people close to Ki-chun had betrayed him. He came to find the boss junior right before, agitating the feud and coriandering, cooperating with comrades to overthrow the kitchen. So when Ki-chun was here reading the code alone, the remnants of the old boss had hit him. Seeing that the middle clothes were a little surprised, Ki-chun only had time to introduce those people who killed Tae-hu. Hearing this, he killed a breath of medicine. Then they rushed into the crowd like 2 hungry tigers. Although the group was overwhelmingly numerous, they couldn't fight back. Soon, the middle Mo took down the orchids crawling on the floor. In fact, the price of ignorance is very high, because there is no betrayal here. As soon as the disciples were exhausted by the middle of the night, at this time Ki-chun's gang had already ambushed. It's all just a drama to conveniently clean up the remnants of the old boss. The melee between the 2 new old regimes took place. The kitchen quickly overwhelmed the old ones. Zhong Mo also participated in such a genuine rogue. The lieutenant was immediately blinded and tortured right in front of the lieutenant. Although very handsome, Ki-chun is indeed a cold-blooded guy. As long as he is an enemy, he defies all forms of torture. Witnessing the cruelty of this underworld, Zhong Mo was indeed terrified. But in fact, after this, it was also to make Ki-jun slack his face. He was going to destroy Ki-chun through these old guys, while every month he paid tribute to him a bag of money. On the occasion of today's melee, Ki-chun also broke off his friendship with Mr. Slack. From now on, he will not be pumped another penny. Returning to Zhongma, he was introduced to the tavern they had just stayed in. It was yours to build for numbness. Now that he is dead, the future successor will be Zhong Mo. So from the next day, Zhong Mo officially became a member of the Gangnam gang. I thought I had successfully reached the goal. You can't even stand next to Ki-chun, let alone be close. Zhong Mo brought a lament to Sung Huyun. Sung Hein advised Trung Mo to calmly wait for an opportunity. One thing he seems to have forgotten is that he has a wife, seeing his husband go to investigate and never come back. Duong Jiang called his police station to inquire, only to find out that Zhong Mo had asked for leave. He immediately had to go to his wife to make everything clear. When the story is being talked about, a dangerous situation appears. When he was eating with his wife, he happened to be here with his juniors. Ki-chun and Jiang knew each other better than he did. It turns out that when they were young, the 2 of them used to have feelings for each other. And Ki-chun is extremely in love with Yangjiang. Until now that feeling is still intact. Meeting my daughter again day and night, looking forward to remembering Ki-chun, was a little surprised. What is more surprising is why my junior is friends with a policeman like Duong Jiang. Duong Jiang didn't know that her husband's interest had pushed the male lead into a 1,000-pound situation hanging by the hair. Zhong Mo was quickly pressed out for questioning. He quickly told his father that he was a skeptic, so he was a little more concerned. It's just a small breather, besides nothing shady. Although Ki-chun's 2 assistants didn't trust him very much. The person in the photo, they are most afraid of the 2 words from the police. But that person was a young man, so Ki-chun was a little soft-hearted. In the end, he ignored the middle Mo, but the person who was bothered at this time was the middle Mo. Looking at Ki-chun's eyes when looking at his wife, he was sure that the relationship between the 2 was not normal. Moreover, the necklace that the precious foot rubber always wears on his body. Coincidentally, his wife also has the same thread. How emotional it must be for Ki-jun to never forget and always cherish the necklace so much. The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't help but be angry in his heart. He brought the matter to ask Duongjong. But she said that it was just a close sister who breathed in childhood. There was no deep affection, and Zhong Mo was less worried when he heard that. Even so, he couldn't help but be on guard against the middle of the road, and immediately sent a fax to a runaway. Investigate information about Yangjiang, especially her husband. The runaway is actually a former policeman. Quickly, with a large amount of money, he bought information from another officer. Not much news came to Ki-chun's hands, information about Yangjiang and details about her husband. Only after having the document in his hand, he immediately called the tomb. Shouldn't your information have already been exposed? Zhong Mo brought anxiety to the opposite side of the queen. Be ready to dry your blood with this plastic pig if it comes to light. But unexpectedly, on the file that Ki-chun got about Duongjong's husband, replaced by the image of the metropolitan brother. At this time, Zhong Mo dared to breathe a sigh of relief. Ki-chun only asked him if he had ever met her husband. Zhong Mo denied the acquaintance. Hearing that, Ki-chun also lost his doubts and let him go. The policeman who sold information was also dealt with by the chief prosecutor. Even so, the Mezimol still thinks that this has not made Ki-chun leave doubts. The news is still that it should be created at the moment of life and death, after the discussion meeting with the special task force. Zhong Mo returned to his military life, but today he discovered something unusual. On the way to Mesomotor Patrol, and the fat colleague saw a strange car. The car was full of black things as if the thieves were stealing. Noticing something unhealthy, he drove after him. Unexpectedly, those strange people with weapons rushed into Ki-chun's office. What a coincidence that there was only Ki-chun there in the office at this time. Instead, there was a movement to pull out a gun to defend, but the number of strangers was too large. He alone and the pistol were almost incapable of fighting back. At this time, the Mezimol and the fat colleague rushed in, changing the chaotic scene. The crowd cut off the electricity and used a flashlight to make it unclear who was with whom. I only saw the mesoderm spreading all over the head by them. However, during the fight, the middle tissue seemed to give a sign, and the crowd quickly withdrew. It is not wrong that it is the curtain set up by the police group. It is not meaningless to have their heads torn off. Through tonight's incident, Ki-chun has more faith in the media. As for the way to make him a personal bodyguard who is always on duty next to him, this makes the flow of calves. Ki-chun's most trusted hands and feet disagreed, because he still thinks that the Mezimol is related to the police. But Ki-chun refutes that doubt. He said that at the most dangerous time, there was only Mazenkama on the side of the ship, and the calf line heard that and had to obey him. Immediately, the Mazenkama was moved to live in the office area. Know the password of the main workplace. Of course, the name of the calf line is still on guard, so I don't let him know more. But this is also a big step. Zhongmo reports to the brothers and then officially works. At the beginning of becoming Ki-chun's bodyguard, he was able to accompany him outside. I just didn't expect that the place Ki-chun went to was the hospital where his mother-in-law was treating cancer. Fearing that he would reveal his identity, he asked to stand outside the car. Watching the scene of my mother-in-law being mesmerized by a criminal is extremely uncomfortable. Moreover, he also wanted to visit his mother-in-law, but his status did not allow it. Ki-chun with his mother is like with his own mother. He agreed to follow her words and follow the path of righteousness. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, he received a phone call from his adoptive father. He told Ki-chun about the old man's plot to degrade his brother. Ki-chun didn't say much, just told his adoptive father to follow his plan. Only to see that as soon as he hung up, the fate of the old worm was also over. He couldn't believe that Ki-chun was his adoptive father's money-making tool. He is also the most notorious informant in Japan. Whoever creates money, that person has the right to live on behalf of the owner lying on the spot. The secretary hurriedly arrested the secretary on the other side, and then immediately found a way to escape. The sudden disappearance of Mr. Trung on Japanese soil caused the police to immediately get involved, because he was a police colonel. Moreover, it is also involved in the trade of apricot between the two countries. This caused the team of the Mezimol to have a meeting to investigate. Zhong Mo showed the images he had taken in the base of the Ki-chun gang. They have a regular fishing day, so they take advantage of the absence of their master. Zhong Mo sneaked into Ki-chun's office, saving images that he thought had clues. After reviewing, The Mezimol suspected that the fishing was the day of the flower transaction. However, something unfortunate happened. When they went out to the fishing spot, the calf discovered that the flashlight they were carrying had a police logo. The police equipment was there in a suspicious place. They gradually realized that the raiders that night were the police. Immediately brought the matter to the kitchen. Putting that aside, they continued their work. One thing was in the middle of implementing the plan when a member of another gang blocked his way. They overbearing the calf to be taken hostage, but they underestimated the kitchen. Soon, they were hit by a car of the Kijin group and fell on the side of the field. As a result, he was stripped of his clothes and tortured in a wasteland. Zhongpe was also summoned there, because Kitchen wanted to test the ruthlessness of the middle MO. As long as he can kill people, it will remove the suspicion that he is a policeman. Zhongpe held the gun in his hand and breathed. Although he has to play the role of a thug, he is a policeman. How can they kill people even if they are criminals? Seeing that he was confused and hesitated forever and couldn't shoot, the guillotine guy immediately walked over and said that killing people also takes time. After saying that, he grabbed Zhong Mo's gun and fired repeatedly at the man in his way. It was the first time I saw the criminals pacifying the enemy, but the metamorphosis cut without a drop of blood. Meanwhile, the Kitchen still calmly returned to the office. They immediately sat down together to analyze the suspicion of him. However, through investigation, Kitchen learns that Zhongmo's father is addicted to it. His two relatives are still suspicious because Zhong Mo is related to Jiang Jiang. They were afraid that she would go through the tomb to investigate them. But Kishin, with affection in his heart, refutes doubts. I believe that Jiang Jiang didn't do it to me. Who knows that it is because it is to strengthen their trust in Zhongma. And Duong Jiang has also joined the special case team this time. Immediately that night, Kitchen received an invitation from Yang Jiang to go drinking. Instead of saying immediately the next morning, Kitchen went to the meeting point. The thing is that the person who escorted him was Zhong Mo. Zhong Mo didn't know who Kitchen met again. Then he was surprised to see that the person he met again was his wife. In order to explain the capital, Yu appeared and said the plan for Jiang Jiang to join Zhongma. But he did not agree with this, because to participate is to face danger. He blamed the brother for pushing his wife into such a situation. But that is the task of a policeman. It is also because of these 2 hours of duty that when the couple meets, they have to be treated as strangers. Trung Mo also had to take his wife and his wife's ex-lover for a walk on the street by himself. In the car, Kitchen sat quietly and asked Han Xiangjiang with interest. In order not to expose the loophole, Jiang also had to lie to him that she had been divorced a long time ago. This is good news for the Kishin, and the middle can only be bitter. Returning to the office, Kitchen told himself that he would see Duong Jiang more often from now on. Indeed, as soon as the early morning of the dream came, Kitchen came to wake up the middle of the dream, give him a black suit to go to see Xiang Jiang. But something that Zhong Mo didn't expect happened. His mother-in-law has died, and he still can't go inside when he arrives at the venue of the ceremony. Because inside his whole family, pain is when he only dares to stand outside and suffer and worry about his wife. When she saw Kitchen come to visit, she also went to look for her husband. The two could only sneak a peek at each other from a distance, but their eyes contained all their concern for each other. Later, Yang Jiang sent Kitchen outside. Facing Ms. Zhongma, she still had to try to be calm even though she was extremely heartbroken. Something unexpected happened. When his nephew ran to call his uncle, the situation surprised all three of them. As long as the baby runs to the middle of the MO, the drama will be brought down. Instead, at the most critical moment, the brother had time to hug the baby and leave there. Because of the investigation the other day, Kitchen thought that you were Yang Jiang's ex-husband. In order to avoid being seen by the family, Jiang Jiang invited Kitchen out to talk about it. Unintentionally, he pushed Zhong Mo into a situation where he heard another man sitting and ironing his wife with deep affection. In order to dispel this atmosphere, you came out. In the name of Yang Jiang's ex-husband, he told Kitchen not to interfere in other people's affairs. And yet, Kitchen also raised his voice against him, that he is a husband and son-in-law, but he has never visited his mother-in-law, and let his wife suffer alone. Those reproaches went straight to Zhong Mo's heart next to him, and when he took the Kitchen to the car, he immediately asked for permission to go to the toilet. But in fact, he went inside to visit his mother-in-law. But he was stopped by the chief prosecutor and the brother because doing so was like revealing his identity. Trung Mo burst into tears in the suffocation, and could only kneel at his mother-in-law from afar, because his mother-in-law was the one who cared and encouraged him with all his heart. He is a person who does not despise him like the rest of the family. Endlessly heartbroken. In the evening, Kitchen even invited him to drink with him. Meanwhile, the middle mo turned to alcohol to forget his helplessness. Then Kitchen remembered and he said, "Help him to get his teeth." Hearing a criminal say he wanted to love his wife, he laughed out loud. Even though he was drunk, he was still aware of the task and agreed with Kitchen. In return, he wants Kitchen to help him advance in her explosive career. But after the drinking, he sneaked up to the rooftop to call his wife. He was sorry that when she needed him the most, he couldn't be by his side. At this time, something happened when Mr. Zhong's secretary returned to report to the master. He scooped up all his wealth and went to find the same gang that stabbed and hired children. The main goal is to destroy the kitchen. To achieve that, the group of soldiers immediately hired for juniors. Ruins everywhere to buy the juniors of the kitchen. From the confidants to the prawns, they were all injected with rebellious will in their heads. As usual, today the kitchen group has a fishing trip. But when he was about to leave, one of the two close men refused to follow him because of his wife. I had to add more people to the group. And that is none other than Zhong Mo. Although the calf stream vehemently objected, in the end, Zhong Mo was still escorted by Kitchen on this trip. On the way, he couldn't stop wondering why they had to separate into two cars, and they were still going on this night. But Kitchen didn't say anything. At this time, suddenly a line of calves called to say that my car had a punctured tire and could not reach. Coincidentally, at that time, there were 23 cars that continuously hit the hammock to provoke Trung Mo's car. Immediately, Zhong Mo noticed that something was wrong. Not long after, their car was blocked by a group of strangers. They were as large as the original army, equipped with a pig to the teeth. They immediately rushed to Zhong Mo's car and smashed it continuously. A doorbreaker rushed in and stabbed Kitchen's neck with a knife. Chung Mu quickly grabbed Kitchen's gun. At this moment, he will have to decide to shoot a strange arrow to protect his big brother. At this point, Zhong Mo had no other choice. Although he did not shoot the head of the arrow that was threatening Kitchen, he pointed the gun over his head and shot at the outsiders. Instead of the number of troops he was about to run out, the oligarch rushed out and called out to the thugs to quickly deal with the Kitchen. But Kitchen was able to get out of the car and fight with them. Despite his strength, Kitchen still escaped death blows continuously. Fighting with bare hands will only lead to death. Kitchen immediately took advantage of the opportunity to fight back, rushing into the car to load the gun. While changing the Kitchen bullets, he thought about the juniors who had left him here alone. Someone must have bitten him back, and he turned around and pointed his gun at the boys. Zhong Mo was afraid that the murder would happen and tried to stop it, but he was slashed in the back by one of the hired slashers. Seeing this, Kitchen didn't hesitate to shoot directly at the disciples. Mr. Trung's secretary also got a ticket to meet the owner. At this time, the guillotine guy surnamed Zio had been waiting nearby for a while, decided not to betray Kitchen anymore and chose to save him. There was a guillotine guy who rushed the car and the situation immediately changed. One by one, the bastards were knocked down by his knife, and the three brothers quickly climbed into the car. Kitchen saw the blood gushing out of his middle back, and he was worried. Hurriedly took him to the emergency hospital. In the corridor of the emergency room, the middle of Kitchen's partner's phone rang back. But Kitchen was no longer interested. He was busy thinking about who the traitor was. It wasn't until the surgery was over that Kitchen called his adoptive father to admit his fault. It can be seen that the incident last night has caused them great losses. At this time, the calf line appeared to apologize to him because yesterday the car suddenly punctured a tire. Kitchen didn't bother to listen to him, directly kick him out, and then let the guy slash them to investigate. The guillotine quickly arrived at the car repair where the calf had arrived. Looking at the tire, it was obvious that it was deliberately punctured, and then he went to the hospital to find the other close man. This guy is indeed his wife who has just given birth. Finally, asked the blonde, who is all the people who know about fishing. The other person was a meso, but looking at him like this, it was definitely not him. Through this incident, Kitchen also defaulted to trusting the most meso. But when Zhong Mo asked about going fishing in the middle of the night, Kitchen still didn't tell the truth. At this time, the guillotine went in to report the investigation. It seems that Kitchen has guessed the traitor. Lean summoned the entire gang to the office to deal with him. Although the mesoderm was seriously injured, he was returned by ambulance on the same day. On the way, the fat man accompanied him with a stomach ache. Taking advantage of this opportunity, You sneaked in to inquire about the situation of the central region. Talking about himself, Zhong Mo told the brother to go back to the person who came to catch the blonde. Because the one who betrayed Kitchen was him. 3 days ago, when he put the Mesomole in the car, he revealed a loophole. If he didn't catch him sooner, he would definitely die. As expected, the blonde didn't come to the summons, but packed up and fled. Police quickly arrived at the house to arrest and protect him. However, it was still a step slower, and the guillotine had already brought him in front of Kitchen. Needless to say, the blonde is no longer humanoid. The whole face was stained with fresh blood. The crime of treason along with the losses of last night's transaction. There were enough grounds to sentence him to death. But this time, Kitchen handed over the right to life and death to the Mesomole because the person who almost died was him. But the middleman only took a stick and hit the blonde with a few pieces. Then please spare him a life. Thanks to the mesenchymal, the blonde was spared on the condition that he would never reappear. After dealing with the traitor, the middle tissue and the guillotine were able to have a joint meeting with the Kitchen. Line B saw that the two people were joined together, and they were extremely dissatisfied. He still didn't fully trust the two of them. But the rescue of Kitchen has been the clearest demonstration. The B line is silent. Here Kitchen officially discussed the issue of the flower trade. Because of last night's incident, the supplier was very angry. Tomorrow those people from China will come all the way here to trade. Force them to fire those people to ensure the supply of goods. Immediately, the information about this reached the police. The chief prosecutor came up with a way to help Zhong Mo reach the Chinese people. That is the Kitchen snake glass. The person who can do that is none other than. Just one phone call from her outing was enough to make Kitchen cancel all her schedules. Assign the reception of the Chinese delegation to the middle tissue. One thing that the B line and the rest of the cronies couldn't believe, because until now, Kitchen has not trusted the series. Lin gave the guillotine man the task of investigating the truth. Both the Mesomole and the guillotine were outsiders, and they immediately discussed and linked each other. Those close to Kitchen have gone to take their place. The guillotine immediately pretended to be a police officer and investigated the clerk who was shot almost dead by Kitchen. I asked if there was a link to the B line, but the secretary flatly denied it. No matter how he answered, he ended up being killed by the guillotine. In the meantime, Kitchen was also sitting down and talking to the blind. He constantly emphasized trust and loyalty. The guillotine immediately reported to Kitchen, whose conversation between the two was uncomfortable. The B line again mentions that Kitchen is related to tooth decay. That would put both him and them in danger. But when it comes to teething, Kitchen is extremely conservative, thinking that his heart's choice is always right. Because he didn't see the scene, he came home and was surprised when his husband was there. She ran over and hugged the middle tissue. On the rice tray, Zhong Bao Kitchen trusted him, so he would take advantage of it to go home to meet his wife. But she didn't want to go to that terrible case, but just wanted to spend time cultivating her feelings for her husband. Then the next morning she had to carry out the task of meeting the Kitchen, and the two of them went to the teenage breathing church together. Reviewing the memories of emotions while reminiscing about them, he reached out and grabbed his hand and stretched his teeth. He didn't refuse, but silently looked at the scenery around him. In Korean, Zhongma asked, he thought that people of Korean descent had to be over 55 years old to enter the country. But she just smiled contemptuously. The fake passport was now a mess that he didn't know. After saying that, she changed her makeup. Coming back is a young lady with a cool personality. After driving her back to the hotel, Zhong Mo immediately got into Brother Do's car to report. Through that, he learned that his wife was with Kitchen. Zhong Mo went crazy and blamed the brothers for making it more and more dangerous. The mesoderm was angry and put it inside, accidentally bumping into the monkey-faced man. Looking at his eyes and his boss, he was not an ordinary person. Zhong Mo didn't know that this poor bride was the secretary of Kitchen's adoptive father. This night, after listening to the phone call of the Chinese lady, Kitchen returned to the dining table with Yang Jiang. The hearty rice sprouts in the hotel next year are his childhood promise. But Xiang Jiang didn't pay attention. She asked him about his job and the brothers he had. Perhaps due to an occupational disease, her question is investigating the Kitchen. Kitchen returned and immediately went to find the Chinese lady. She is the daughter of a middle-aged man. I came to negotiate business on behalf of my father. When it comes to the mid-sell talk round, they are not allowed to participate but have to sit and wait outside. And Kitchen brought a bag of money to sweeten the young lady. But because she was a young player, this money was not mistaken for her. The young lady not only did not calm down her anger, but she also felt more obstructed by Kitchen's way of working. In the end, she said that she would talk to the Japanese side first, and then the three sides would sit down later. This news was immediately reported by Zhong Mo. The task force decided that tomorrow the whole group will be turned upside down when their transaction takes place. The next morning, sitting and waiting, the old Japanese clerk also called. Kitchen let the Mezimol go with him and the others had to wait outside. When he went to the door, the car of the Mezimol group was stopped by two policemen. They received a report from the roadblocks the day before. By the way, I also want to catch Kitchen up to make it difficult. Kitchen didn't waste much time with them and immediately walked quickly to the talking point. I just didn't expect the two policemen to follow me like leeches. The cunning Japanese man was extremely careful, arranging a separate room to lock up the bodyguards of the parties. Play the music very loud so that no one but them can hear the conversation. The police also determined the plan this time to go to the... Because Kitchen ruined the previous day, he was pushed out of the line. If he wanted to go back, he had to take the envelope and stand in the hall. If no one comes to him, it proves that the police have not discovered them. So Kitchen had to face and take the money bag down the hall. At this time, people were paying attention to Kitchen and Zhongma. Neither the police nor the Kitchen knew what was going on. The subordinates were also about to leave, but realizing that something was wrong, they withdrew. Brother Du also quickly ordered the police to stop acting. While Kitchen still had to wait, his adoptive father kicked him out of the game. He wanted to deal directly with the Chinese side himself. Originally, until now, the use of Kitchen was just so that the police wouldn't pay attention to him. The young lady didn't like that because she didn't want to change the way she worked. After 5 minutes, the Kitchen also came back in. The two policemen did not let anyone rush in, making the subordinates on the side of the Metropolitan Police itch. Because of the presence of the police, Kitchen's negotiations were interrupted. The old Japanese man and the young lady quickly fled, while Zhong Mo stayed behind to stop the policeman. It must be said that this policeman is no different from a bastard. Fight with the middle Mo with vicious and brutal blows. Noticing that the brother had sent someone to stop the two policemen, he stopped. The time was not ripe, so the criminals had to escape this time. Once again, the serpent saved the master, so Zhong Mo was very noticed by the Chinese lady. She also said what the Japanese wanted. Kitchen realized that his adoptive father was trying to abandon him. He immediately begged the Chinese lady to believe in him again. But at this time, the old Japanese man called and told them to stop trading because they were stalked by the police. He said he would talk in the next few days. The Chinese lady immediately called Kitchen to another corner to talk. She didn't like her adoptive father's overbearing style. Therefore, the person she chooses to trade with will be you, and in return, Kitchen has to lend her a few days. But the mad policeman just now refused to spare them. Unable to do anything at the hotel, he went to Kitchen's office. Directly beat his junior to disability. Facing the policeman who was no different from this inspector, the Kitchen were forced to give him a presenter. Zhong Mo was fortunate enough to do it. Kitchen, of course, did not agree to let his close junior go to prison. Zhong Mo said that he would solve it. In return, if successful, Kitchen had to let him participate in transactions with the Chinese. As soon as they arrived at the police station, Zhong Mo showed a strong face just like a bunch of thugs. Instead of his attitude of not wanting to cooperate, the policeman's hands were crazy and bloody. He was used to constantly beating Mo brutally. Despite being prevented by his colleagues, the policeman kept beating him until his face was covered in fresh blood. Even if he dreamed, he didn't expect that the person he fought was a colleague. Therefore, as soon as the mad policeman continued to think about his face, the chief prosecutor suddenly appeared. Needless to say, the policeman's superiors came to apologize to the chief prosecutor. Thanks to that, the eggs were released outside. The guillotine surnamed Zio was already waiting. Trung Mo said that he let the police beat him, so he should be spared, hugging the face that was no longer recognizable to the office. However, the ghost line is skeptical. It must be very red for the chief prosecutor to coincidentally appear there like that. Fortunately, Ki Jun refuted that skepticism of the calf line. Because at the most critical time, the person who surrendered to save them was Zhong Mo. Not only did he not suspect the middle Mo, but on the contrary, Ki Chun also skillfully chased the calf out. It is enough to understand that he no longer has faith in the calf line. This makes the calf flow extremely dissatisfied. As promised, the next day Zhong Mo was tasked with escorting the Chinese lady. He took her to famous places. While talking, the two gradually became closer and more open. After having enough fun, they went to a Japanese restaurant. Here, the Chinese lady clearly expressed her feelings for Trung Mo. But she had fun. But she didn't forget her mission. Take out an item from the bag and show the middle Mo how to distinguish fine and even flour. Zhong Mo saw the flour for the first time and lost his temper. It turns out that the type of flour that does not sink when dropped into the water but foams white is of high quality. The young lady said that this thing was only available in her factory. But now it was found by her bodyguard in Kaichen's bar. It means that Kaichen has eaten less of her goods to sell in her own pocket. This deception is not worthy of her cooperation. Zhong Mo also heard this for the first time. Even so, he still tried to ask the young lady for another chance. If you can entrust the transaction to me. Do you mean that you betrayed Kaichen? No, it's that I'll see him do better. Realizing that it was still not enough to convince Trung Mo to decide to play big. Tell the young lady that if they agree, they will have more time for each other. But she said that when it comes to business, whether he will choose love or money. Returning to the central tomb, he quickly reported everything to the metropolitan brother. What was needed now was to deal with the zombie who was always on the lookout for him. So for nothing, the zombie was immediately carried to the police station. Of course, he was strong enough to avoid all the investigative questions. But the purpose of the center is not just that. In the sound of music collapsing, the police quickly blocked it. And it was not difficult to find bags of white powder in the body of this suspicious smoky-haired man. Plus, seeing zombies there, they think it was the zombies who denounced them. Because as soon as the mouths are caught, the zombies are released again. The fact that he returned safely while the police discovered the flower made Kaichen unable to trust him anymore. The idol singer came to disturb him again and said that it was the zombie who revealed him. This further strengthens Kaichen's long-standing suspicions. Kaichen calls out the zombie and kicks him out of his gang. Hearing that the zombie couldn't calm down, he demanded a reason. The reason is that the zombies themselves have secretly eaten less goods sold out without going through Kaichen. Is it so fun to make money after your father's salary? But the zombie was not committed. He blamed Kaichen for changing his heart since the middle of the tomb appeared. And everything has also become a lie since the day he let Zhong Mo join here. Plus, the toothless love has made Kaichen stupid, trampling the brotherhood all these years. Saying all the words, Kaichen's choice was still to chase the zombies away. The zombie hugged the grudge and went to the door to look at Zhong Mo with a vengeful gaze. And the guillotine guy surnamed Shao seems to have been waiting for this day for a long time. When he took the zombie to the elevator, he did not spare a hand to beat him to the body of a wild demon. In a minute from the right-hand position, the zombie was knocked out of the game. At the same time, he also arrived at the rendezvous point with Kaichen. It turned out that Kaichen had organized a prayer party for her mother. This made the teeth extremely touched. There was something she didn't think Kaichen was standing outside the door, so let him hear her talk to the nuns. That the tooth has never been in elementary school, as Zhong Mo said. This makes Kaichen immediately question the investigator. The suspicion made him guard and ponder even when sitting and talking to the meso. Even Jiang, he had no unconditional faith. So as soon as she called to make an appointment to meet Kaichen, she told Jiang to come to her office. After that, he called the Chinese lady to set up the scene where the four of them met. Seeing that his wife continued to walk beside the sturgeon, he was definitely uncomfortable. And Jiang couldn't be happy when she saw her husband having another daughter flirting. However, she still showed insensitivity to her husband and happily followed her to the office. By the time he let her sit and wait in the office, Chi-chun sent the fat man to investigate the information about her. Then he drove the car to an open field. Expressing Kai-chun's dream is to create an urban area here. At this time, there was a phone call from the middle tissue, but because he was facing Chi-jun, Yang Jiang chose not to answer. On the beach, she and Kai-chun walked side by side. Chi-jun couldn't help but be surprised and hurriedly grabbed Yang Jiang's hand and interrogated that she had never lived in the countryside of the Mesamol. Yang Jiang admitted that it was true. She had never lived there, but there was a time when her father worked there. So she had been moving back and forth between the two places for a long time. And that's when he met the meso, and then Jiang looked directly at Chi-jun with sincere eyes, making him a little confused. At the same time, the fat man also called to report the results of the investigation. That indeed, Jiang's father had a period of time working in the hometown of Trung Mo. Of course, in order to do that, you had to prepare in advance. But at this time, Xiangjiang also had a gun in his bag. That's right, when Qi-jun returned, he told Xiangjiang to turn his back. She held her breath and gripped the gun tightly. From the pocket of the shirt containing the pistol was also prepared. He reached out and took it out in the necklace bag, and then directly put it on Yangjiang. At this time, she breathed a sigh of relief, so Qi-jun chose to trust Yangjiang to the end. To further strengthen that belief, Duangjiang also played cards frankly. She said that indeed after meeting him, she investigated, and know well that he is involved in the case of the old boss. Hearing this, Qi-chun immediately lost his temper for the forest of cars, said that because of the investigation, Duangjiang accepted to meet him. But on the contrary, Duangjiang said that he did not believe that he was involved, and even if he was involved, she would still believe him, and will accept to use his police status to help him. The hand that was still wearing the wedding ring of the Mezimol grabbed the hand of the signer. She told him that I love you. Hearing these words, Qi-chun was extremely moved. The two rushed to kiss each other in tears. After determining his feelings, Kai-chun immediately took Duangjiang back to introduce him to his juniors. The close man saw that the big man said that he would marry the policeman but couldn't believe it. Immediately, the situation should be careful. But Qi-chun completely trusts Yangjiang and reassure you that nothing will happen. So the Mezimol had to wholeheartedly take her out to eat. At the dinner table, Zhong Emo took advantage of the opportunity to ask the young lady about business. He wanted to give an answer about love and money the day before. But the young lady blocked her throat and pointed out her condition, that her side would increase the amount of flour a little and ask for double the usual amount. Then she made the Mezimol make a decision on her own whether to agree or not. Capital in business, of course, money is the most important. But since I like you, please do this with me. And in order for the role to be full, the middle mole was carried to bed by the young lady. In the hotel room, the two of them wrapped around each other. Their lips did not separate. One by one, the clothes were removed, and at this time, his mind was filled with memories of him with his wife. His heart was aware that his current actions were wrong. Luckily, there was a young lattice bodyguard who came to break the atmosphere. Save the Mizenkama before he has to sell himself for the mission. The bodyguard came and told the young lady to leave Korea immediately, because something bad will happen tonight, only to see that Ki-chun's side was having dinner when there was a sound of stability. In that chaotic scene, the mesenchymal gaze collided with his teeth. Both of them looked at each other worriedly. More than worried, the mesenchymal didn't understand why the toothpick was here. Crazy blood in the mesenchymal body emerged. He went to pick up the milling knife in front of him, and directly rushed in to slash each of the thugs in front of him. On this side, Ki-chun was also busy fighting, and while he was careless, he was chained by an ancient man. Ki-chun immediately rushed over and slashed frantically in front of that thug. In addition, the middle MO also no longer has the personality of the police officer in the past. He stabbed the thugs one by one until they were no longer in the world. Just like that, the medium killed each of them in the chaotic crowd one by one. But she was now like a person who had lost her soul, standing like heaven while witnessing with his own eyes that his husband mercilessly belittles others. The Mezimol is no longer the brother of the old days. Looking at the bloody appearance, it was like kneeling. Just like that, the last guy was sent to heaven by the middle model. At this time, there was a noise outside the mesenchyma signaling Qi-jun to stay. He was about to rush out, but the person who walked in was a Chinese lady. Because she liked Mezimol, she argued with her father, and continued to cooperate with the Qi-chun group. As for today's incident, I know very well who caused it. Immediately, the group rushed to the mercenaries' lair. The person behind them was the Japanese secretary. The slasher was directly carried on the table by the middle MO. After that, it was to cut off the tendons of his legs, and he was a big man. The sentence that he still looked disdainful. So he decided that he would never work with him again. That is, the adoptive father left. He also directly revoked the status of the secretary. That night, I brought the Mezimol to my house and slept soundly. By the way, the medium tissue also asked why Ki-chun was so strict with his adoptive father. Kai-chun accompanies his adoptive father. While the adoptive father left, Kai-chun accompanied the adoptive father. While the adoptive father left, Kai-chun accompanied the adoptive father. That night, I brought the Mezimol to my house and slept soundly. By the way, the medium tissue also asked why Ki-chun was so strict with his adoptive father. Chi-jun said that it was the price to pay because he had crushed his teeth to death. Hearing this, the mesomole was a little uncomfortable for him. Even so, he still decided not to give up. Lean went to the young lady and the old secretary and asked the two of them to give him a chance to cooperate. So the next day, as a young lady, the middle mother was able to go to the place of her adoptive father. Here he begged him to let him adopt him the way he had been. There was a thing that the old man was obsessed with, and he shouted at the right mesoderm with a finger. He had someone take the knife out and press the mesoderm to do it. While the scared mesoderm gritted its teeth to accept the pole, suddenly the monkey-faced man changed direction. Sticking the knife directly into the heart of the adoptive father, it turned out that because the old man had put down the secretary, he was determined to bend the old man's throne. So in his eyes, he was replaced by his own assistant. Even if the adoptive father dreamed, he could not expect that. The secretary's name and the secretary had already made an agreement. Immediately from the door of the Kijin stepped into the surprise of the mesomole. It turned out that the Kijin had always been so cruel in the way it worked. This case may have had too many trade-offs. Stretching her teeth after leaving that bloody office, she went to see the metropolitan brother, looking at her like a person who lost his soul and understood the problem. But he still believes in the middle that he is still a policeman. Despite being encouraged by the brotherhood, when he got home he couldn't stand it. She looked at the photo of the couple in police uniforms, remembering the memories of how he proposed to her in the past, how happy the two used to be, how honest and gentle he used to be a policeman. The image of him in the devil's face guarded earlier was still her husband. The more I thought about it, the more heartache I felt, and I was so scared that I burst into tears. After a while, she received 2 voice messages, the first of which was from Ki-chun apologizing to her for today's incident. He hoped she would forget and ignore him. The rest is the middle tissue. He said to withdraw from the case so as not to endanger his motherhood. And I can't stop anymore. I'll quickly finish and come back to you. The suppresses in her heart seemed to burst her teeth. She felt that this case had already ended her husband's death. After the old adoptive father finished processing, the mesenchymal was invited to drink wine. Here he said that his future plan was to wash his hands and guard his sword after the trip was finalized. And Zhong Mo will be the one to replace him and continue to be the leader. This made Zhong Mo extremely ridiculous. He pretended to be here to catch the slackman who he had now ceded to him. And then wash your hands and guard your sword to marry your wife? Saying that, the next morning, Chi-chun took Zhong Mo to the launch of the amusement park project that he cherished. Duong Jiang was also called here, sitting in the conference room and looking at Kai-jun and his wife getting married like a couple who were about to get married, making Zhong Mo unhappy. At this time, the mad policeman came to disturb Kai-chun again. He kept asking him about the flower missions. He also looked defiant and then overbearingly left. Seeing this, Zhong Mo immediately called Brother Du. You have to tie up the crazy policeman or their case will be flawed. But all they could do was tell his superiors to manage their employees. However, the mad policeman continued to investigate, and he even went to Zongmo's father to interrogate him. It must be said that this guy is bad but very resolute in his goals. His father is an addict but very famous. So he didn't testify, but brought up the story of blackmailing you, and you immediately realized how dangerous the crazy policeman was. Through a few lying down, the brother found a peach girl who was once the lover of the person who was killed by Kai-chun. Tell her to go to the crazy policeman and tell him some things. The policeman was extremely excited when he heard this, and he immediately sent someone to Chi-shun's office and arrested the guillotine. This was Zongmo's plan. The purpose was to make them suspect that this game was caused by zombies reporting to the police. Because no one knew about the guillotine killing except him, afraid that the guillotine would reveal it. So the middle-class group decided to import more My Tuesday to make money. Zhong Mo immediately reported the matter to the metropolitan brother. Given that this transaction will be their last chance, seeing that the mesomole is increasingly engraved with blind success, Brother Du reminded him not to abuse him. There have been too many strong cases recently. Don't forget that he himself is a policeman. As for the name of the guillotine surname Zio, it was indeed as Zhong Mo speculated. Kai-chun had a cabbage in the prison after receiving the message. The guillotine kept silent and made the mad policeman go crazy. But this opportunity to find a Chinese lady to talk about increasing the number of goods. Who knew that, on the other side of the border, in order to have enough goods to be exported, the flour workers were exhausted to the point of unconsciousness. And Teo is indeed death. Tonight will be the last night to decide the winner or loser between the police and the police. The Mesopotamia on the boat and the kitchen go to sea to receive the goods. After checking the sufficient number, the two quickly went ashore, before leaving the medium tissue to leave the news for their comrades. There was one thing while he was bringing the goods to the transaction point with the contractor. He was hit by a truck, causing the two of them to lose consciousness. Unexpectedly, the one who hit the car was the blonde from the day before. He must have set up an accident to rob all the goods. Luckily, Kai-chun woke up again. The two escaped before the car exploded. This news reached the ears of the police. Their plan continued to fall apart, and they returned to the office to be sure that the person who caused this was Jiang Bei. The other close man advised Kai-chun to stop. At this time, he should cherish safety more than money. But the problem is that all the gold coins that Kai-jun have been returned to the office by Jiang Bei and also gone all. So when Zhong Mo said that the goods had been taken and the Chinese side demanded money, Chi-jun said that they had lost everything. Zhong Mo angrily said that he should arrest the Jiang Bei family to intimidate him. Seeing that he seemed to turn into a demon, he immediately told Zhong Mo to calm down and chased him out. The matter became more and more complicated, and the mad policeman investigated the identity of the tooth. He also went directly to find the brother because he thought he was the middle muscle, and told him that he was stuck in a tooth. But you only told him to know how not to get involved in other people's affairs. The two did not know that their actions had been seen by the guillotine man. They were ambushed on the outside. Along with the fat boy, he had met you several times. They immediately concluded that the brother had passed the tooth to investigate them. So they went to the employee the day before and threatened her, forcing her to call Brother Du to the office for them to deal with. Brother Du didn't hesitate to go to the office to meet the employee. When he came to see the atmosphere here, he saw that there was something wrong. After all, it was too late because the guillotine was already waiting for him, and he had even called Zhong Mo to come before. When he arrived, the brother was full of blood. The guillotine suspected the true identity of the Mesamol, forcing him to kill the brother before he gave up his suspicions, which Mesamol can rape his close senior. Trying to explain, the guillotine pulled out his gun and immediately finished off the dominant, which provoked the middle level to the extreme. He rushed into the roof river with the name guillotine. Where did the police come from? But they were able to stop the Mezenkamel before he killed his surname. But the brother's condition was critical. Before he could take his last breath, he could only lead the Mezenkamel to always remember that he was a policeman. Just now, they met each other. Zhong Mo was extremely angry because last night's mission failed. He tried to blame the Toothless for participating in his embarrassment. Brother Du was reprimanded again. That it is in the capital that the middle tissue has to go this way. I just didn't expect that those hurtful words were the last words to be spoken. Meanwhile, Kai-chun didn't know anything. When he came to meet Yang seemed to have more and more feelings for Kai-chun. Lin advised him to stop here, otherwise it would be extremely dangerous. But Kai-chun still has the ambition that now he should not want to stop. At this moment, Kai-chun received a phone call informing him that the name of the calf line had appeared. Lin immediately returned to the office and received a disappointing result. All the brothers and even the close man were on the side of the calf. Kai-chun has officially been sold out by his juniors. Kai-chun immediately led the gun to the head of the calf line. But no matter how challenging he was, he couldn't do it. This scene was also caught by the mad policeman. It turned out that the calf had trapped the tiger and was taken away by the police. Once again, when the tooth had just arrived, Kai-chun had already been taken away by the police. Knowing this, the middle tissue lost his temper. If the mad policeman is caught, his long efforts will be ruined. So no matter what the chief prosecutor said, Zhong Mo also made a decision for himself. He immediately drove the car like crazy with a steady gaze. Directly hit the police car that was escorting Kai-chun to the office. It was the middle mother who decided to rob the prisoner. There is no longer a brother and the chief prosecutor personally instructing the special case. In order to be able to put them all in jail, the police will first catch all the odd slag of the zombie group. So that they have to find the Chinese lady and then the Japanese to make a termite. Indeed, they came to find the Chinese lady right after. After checking, the young lady realized that the zombie was the traitor of the dragon. But they are also extremely proud to receive the trophy, and asked the question of wanting to cooperate with her. The young lady was a little disliked, but because of her business, she still gave them information about the Japanese. After getting out of the car, she immediately called the middle tissue. It turned out that the middle mother had resigned and the young lady only followed his words. Even so, she was still worried that something was about to happen. Because the crazy policeman while in the hospital still can't stop the pain of catching Kai-chun. Realizing that the Mesomole was not wanted, he was suspicious. Lin immediately sent his subordinates to investigate. After learning the true identity of the middle school, he immediately went to find the Chinese lady. Telling the truth is actually the police. The young lady was confused for a moment, and immediately questioned in her heart. But review the words that Zhong Mo once said. She saw that he always wanted to protect her. The young lady immediately called to ask directly about the middle tissue. Listening to the phone, the Mesomole knew that his identity had been exposed. But in the end, the young lattice's love for him was still real. She immediately went out to meet the mad policeman. I only know that the last word Zhong Mo said to her was to advise her not to go back to the country or stay in China. But let's go to Hong Kong. So the mad policeman was also given a shot to heaven. That is what the young lady can do to protect her beloved. As for her protection, the bodyguard took care of the rest of the policemen on her behalf, paving the way for the young lady to escape. As calculated before, the last act of the zombies transaction also took place. Zhong Mo took the name of carrying Ki-jun to steal the goods. But as soon as he arrived, he immediately pointed his gun at Ki-chun. Then he put one hand in the car and went out to pick the zombies in the closet. At this time, Ki-chun knew that the person he trusted the most was the police. But the Mesomole only focused on catching the zombies. Put on the kimono from a distance with the handcuff key next to it. Because in the morning when they were talking, Ki-chun wished that he could rebuild his life. That made the mesoderm feel sympathetic. And this is the last act of repayment that the Mesomole gives to the Kijin. Along the way, the flower producers in China and the Japanese wholesalers have also been arrested. Only the young lady escaped thanks to the suggestion of the Meso. The massive case is finally over. And Tooth met her husband again and asked if they could return to the way they used to be. But when she got home, she saw that she was ready. The feeling of being betrayed by both the person he trusts and the person he loves makes Ki-jun completely collapse. Han Dirty Gun asked Tooth if she had ever been honest with Han. But Tooth only answered like no. Ki-chun was completely desperate and put the gun to his head to kill himself. Seeing this, the mesoderm was one step faster, and used a gun to knock down Han right in front of Tooth. Then he stood and watched his wife run to hug Ki-chun and cry in pain. The case is over. The great sacrifice of the brothers has also received worthy results. The mesenchyma is promoted as promised. But does that matter anymore? He traded too much for this fierce role. The day he accepted the case because he wanted to be worthy of his wife. But when he achieved his goal, his wife's affection was gone. Zhong Mo went straight to Ki-chun's grave, put his wedding ring on the tomb, as if giving back the love of Tooth Grace to him, then quietly left.